one.
Bam.
I didn't even hear the clap, sadly.
I heard it. I heard it on my side.
I didn't hear it because of the noise suppression. That's
Well,
very sad.
Braille just clapped. So that means just like
Oh, there it
that,
is.
we're back
Hello, everyone.
to another podcast, Insignificant Thoughts Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. First of all,
As I drop
Chris,
things.
how you doing?
Good. Good. Work's being a little crazy, but everything's okay, thankfully.
Yeah, it's been pretty busy at my job too. I have like a few projects that I'm working on right now. So it's a little hectic, but as you guys can see, we are doing a virtual podcast today. It's snowing tonight, so I didn't want Chris to drive down here and potentially he's not gonna get stuck because he has a truck, but I just didn't want him to be driving in this weather.
I'm
And
going to drive my snowplow.
and potentially now we're testing for other future podcasts, people that might want to be in the podcast and are far away, another state or whatever it might be. We have this now testing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Today we just are going to be talking about what is exactly that we just said. I just completely, I'm like,
Forgot. No, I'm just kidding. I do remember. I was thinking, I was like health and chronic conditions or
Yeah.
health and health conditions or something of that sort. I don't know.
yeah,
Something along those
health
lines.
and chronic conditions. Right. I think it's great that we're going to talk about this today. I've been going through some things myself. Chris has his own issues in the past, and I'm sure a lot of people listening have their own things that they go through. So I think it's cool to talk about. So I guess I'll start by kind of saying what I've been going through lately.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No.
I only brought it up because I was like, it's an interesting topic.
No.
given what's happened,
I'm
yeah.
okay. I'm okay with saying I have no problem. So I have a disorder. It's called esophageal dysmotility disorder. Nothing crazy. I'm fine. Oh my god! What was that? Did you hear that? It's like a I don't know. It's a car passing by anyway. So esophageal dysmotility disorder. The esophagus has a function. The function of the esophagus is to push food down to your stomach. My esophagus only does that 40% of the time. So with that, some people, choke a lot of times, have food stuck there. For me, it's more of I feel food getting stuck there sometimes. I never choke, thankfully, but it causes a lot of irregularities in my body, in terms of acid reflux, irregular bowel movement, and pain, discomfort in my esophagus and lower abdomen, and those things like that. So lately it's been really, really bad. Really, really bad. And when it gets bad like that, it's really, really difficult to be in a positive mood. I hear my pop. I should have put a pop filter in here. It's difficult to be in a positive mindset because I'm in a lot of discomfort. Ways to kind of like not treat to treat it is eating well, very, very healthy. Diet is very, very strict. Mostly no caffeine, no tobacco, which I don't smoke tobacco, so that's fine. No high fat foods, no citric or acidic foods,
Basically,
and
every food known to man.
yeah, and I forget what
It's
was
like
the other thing. And I have to,
you can't do chocolate. I
to
know that.
yeah, can't do chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of like measure everything and keep it, I guess, kind of better when I sleep. I gotta sleep inclined, so that way, the food is not coming back up at night.
Mm.
So yeah, I've been getting flare ups. I call them flare ups. When I get flare ups, I get a lot of acid reflux. Very difficult to sleep. It feels like a elephant is sitting on my chest. I get like a taste of like a metallic
Like
taste, almost like
acid.
copper.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm saying metallic and copper, and like it's more like copper. I would
Mm-hmm.
say like almost like if you're tasting a penny in your mouth.
Mm. Kind of
Um,
gross.
and yeah, when all of that is going, and I can't eat what I want, and then it becomes scary because if with everything there's bad possibilities of things happening, like if I
Mm-hmm.
were to not eat well when things like this are happening and it's constantly happening to me, I could potentially um, get throat cancer, god forbid.
So that's like a known risk of the actual condition.
Yes, that is
Mm.
a known risk. It usually, they say that it has to be, in order for you to do that, I mean, you have to go be pretty irresponsible most of the time. But a lot of times you also get different types of, I guess, ranges of the disorder, which
Mm-hmm.
even if you're being responsible, you could potentially still get throat cancer. Just because of the constant acidity.
Yeah,
It's not
it's a
supposed to be there.
possibility.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we wanted to talk about it because I know that, again, this is not comparing, right? I know that people have it worse than I do. I know that people have cancer, people have leukemia, whatever it might be. I'm saying say cancer, leukemia, same thing.
Mm-hmm. Or other
But
conditions.
other
Yeah.
conditions, right? So, but I'm saying it. We're talking about it because I know the feeling of being disheartened and feeling like you're gonna die. So it's a little difficult sometimes. A
No,
little.
I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
you. I can't even imagine. I've told you in the past that I cannot relate to what you're feeling because I've never suffered anywhere in my GI in that regard, with acidity or digesting food or anything. What I did have in the past, however, for a little while, it hasn't come back because of, again, taking care of myself. But I used to have very, very, very bad gallbladder stone pain. So, for lack of a better term, it was gallstones. I had gallstones
Mm-hmm.
chronically. I was in pain. You wouldn't even be able to tell. That's the bad part about chronic conditions. You don't exactly know when, how intense, if it's going to even happen, if you're going to have a flare up or whatever. So you're consistently kind of on the edge of your seat. If you have a good day, great. If you have a great day and everything's going well, all of a sudden a flare up and that happens can ruin the entire day.
Hmm.
So for me, it was gallbladder pain. For people that don't know, gallstones can form within your gallbladder, that is right by your liver. It is basically a small little duct or bladder that's meant to secrete bile to digest your fats. So pretty simple function. But it turns out your bile sometimes is not concentrated enough, or sometimes you secrete too much bile and you don't use it, etc., etc. Long story short, your gallbladder can clog up. It's right next to your liver, right? It can literally clog up, and when it clogs up, for anyone that knows anything about things inside the body, your body does not like when things are in there that don't belong there.
Right.
So gallstones, kidney stones. Coincidentally, I've had kidney stones too. But speaking about the gallstones right now, gallstones was I would consider more of a chronic over time type thing. The reason why I state that is because, like I said, I could have an attack today. It can last an XYZ number of days. I don't even know. Or at the time I didn't even know. I haven't had an attack in a while. But the crazy part is that's where I relate with you. It's like I don't know how intense it's going to be. I also don't know how long it's going to last. And there's literally little to nothing that I could have done at that point in time to alleviate the type of pain that I was in.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. I think the first time it happened to me, I mentioned very briefly to you recently that it was us playing coincidentally on League, just a video game, right? We're playing a video game, but we were probably doing the same thing we're doing now on Discord, you know, having a conversation. And I remember specifically out of nowhere, just not even saying anything, just walking away from the keyboard. That's how intense the pain got.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that very day where I got my first attack, because that pain is unique. Never forget it, because for the first time in my life, I would say in my adult life, I basically called my dad, and he was in church. He was in the middle of like service, and I think it was a Friday night or something like that. I called my father, barely able to breathe, because when the gallbladder pain kind of grabs you on the right hand side, usually reflecting, and then you get goosebumps, and then you feel like you're having heart palpitations, but you're not really having heart palpitations, and then you're sweating because you're so much pain. Then you feel like you have a fever, but you don't have a fever, and then you get goosebumps. It's an adventure. It's a whole list of potential side effects or symptoms that you could get. And I'll never forget this. I was literally on the floor, just crunched up, and with my phone in my hand, and I'm like, Dad, and he's like, what happened? And he can tell like there's something wrong. My dad knows me very well. He's like, what's wrong? I was like, you just got to take me to the hospital. I don't know what's wrong. You got to take me to the hospital.
At that point, you didn't know what was happening.
I didn't know what was going. I didn't know what was going on. I had an idea though. I had an idea, because I said, all right, pain, right hand side, not left. No numbness, no tingling on the left. All right, it can't be cardiac, you know. And if it is cardiac, well, you know, it must be circulatory, something else. I don't know what's going on. But I didn't exactly know. No. At that point, I literally wanted to find relief any way or form. I wanted to get to the hospital, for them to cut me open and to just yank whatever that was out of there. That's what I wanted. It was very, very intense. My dad came into the house, literally me on the floor. And that's unheard of for someone like me. Me literally on the floor. And my dad, he's asking me, he's like, what's wrong? And I can't even give him a straight answer. That's how much pain I was in. I was like, I don't know. And he tells my mom, go get the insurance and go get in the car. Like, go get in the car immediately. Like, go now. So my mom gets the insurance. She runs downstairs into the car. My dad just makes sure very quickly that I'm not, everything's okay with me. Like, kind of just visually, you get what I'm saying? Very, very quickly look at me, inspecting me, touching my face, making sure it's not a fever, like just general things. Then he's trying to ask me where, like, what's going on, and I point to it, and he puts his hand on there, and he starts praying. And then he's like, okay, it's gonna be fine. He grabs me, and he starts carrying me down the stairs.
Wow.
And as he's carrying me down the stairs, I believe he places me in the car, yeah. And as we're about to leave, my dad, right as he's placing me down, keeps on like praying for me and whatnot. Because I'm telling you, I'm sweating cold. Like, I'm really sweating cold. Bro. And then my mom gets out of the driver's seat, and she comes back there, and she starts patting my face, because I'm all sweated up. Like, I'm telling you, she takes her t-shirt and she just starts patting my face, and she just starts praying. And then just within a couple of seconds of that just happening, the pain started subsiding little by little, and we didn't make it to the hospital, which was good. The pain subsided, actually.
What?
The pain subsided. A lot of people don't know that story.
So did you
I didn't tell you that.
So you didn't go to the hospital?
Right then and there in the backseat of my dad's car after they finished praying. True story. You could ask both of them.
That was
right
that prayer,
after they
bro.
finished praying. Yeah, that's literally. Because I'm telling you, I felt, my dad and my mom can tell you, and anyone that knows me can tell you, I don't succumb easily to pain at all. I literally, for my father to see me in that state, and for my mother to see me in that state, they were like, oh no, there's
wrong.
something severely wrong with him.
Yeah. Wow.
What's funny is that I did not. People always ask me, it's like, oh yeah, what I just mentioned before, kidney stones versus gallstone. I always tell people, kidney stones hurt. Yeah, they hurt, but gallstones, oh no,
Oh, I
no,
can't
no,
imagine. I can, and that's the
no.
thing. Like it, because obviously we're not doing this to like compare anything, but I can't
Oh, of
like
course.
anything that I have. Right, is just extreme discomfort. It's never pain.
Mm.
So I can imagine if what I was, if this the disorder that I have came with pain. If it came
Oh
with
yeah,
pain
yeah.
and I can't get rid of it, I don't know how I would live. Like I
Well,
don't. So and there's people that
that
go
live
through
in
things like
consistent
that live
pain.
in
Yeah,
consistent
yeah,
pain
live in consistent pain. Hmm.
and man, it's
It's
super difficult.
debilitating.
It's super
It's
difficult. Yeah,
debilitating.
yeah.
And it's
It,
mentally straining. I can't
oh my
stress that
god.
enough. It's like when you were stating, it's like, okay, yeah, the pain component, and when you were stating, your stuff and what you've been going through. uh I know you say don't compare, but I always say your stuff is still as bad because you're in a consistent state of discomfort. You don't know if your insides are okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of all of that, you still have to perform or function as if you were okay. That I think is the hardest part about having a chronic condition, is not necessarily the pain portion and the symptoms portion. It's like sometimes you can kind of bear with those things. It's just having to function as quote unquote normal
Yeah.
as that's happening. It's just
The
it's not possible. I don't think it's
yeah.
possible.
It's super difficult for me. What's the hardest thing about all of this is that the person that hears all of my discomfort and pain and whatever is my wife, and I hate moments that the discomfort lasts for weeks and I'm constantly complaining about the discomfort and she has to hear about it. And Brielle's never come to me and being like, oh, I don't want to hear about it. But at least for me, it's sometimes it's a little bit difficult because I know that not every day that you come home, you're going to want to hear, hey, I'm having another bad day. I'm not in the mood to be talking, to be doing anything. I just want to be by myself, or I'm just not going to be talking as much. And that's what bothers me the most, because anybody that knows me knows that I'm the total opposite. That
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
always joking. I'm always like in for like a conversation. I'm the total opposite of what my disorder makes me be. Um, so that's super difficult, man. And I can't imagine for anybody else that may be going through, anything else that they might be going through. And I think it's important to talk about because now, you know, people get to see that, regardless of what we might show on the podcast or anything,
Mhm.
there are parts of my life, right? Our lives are not perfect,
Oh
but
no, not at
but
all.
I want to be open in the podcast because that's one of the reasons why I made the podcast. I want to be able to talk about the good times and the bad times, and be able to tell people how we deal with it.
Hmm.
And for me, again, without Brielle, it would be very difficult. Very, very difficult. I have to be honest. It will be very, very difficult. There will be very dark times for me. She helps me a lot, a lot, a lot. And not to say that I'm I guess disheartened a lot. It's just when the flare ups happen, those moments that the flare ups happen, it's very difficult to not be disheartened.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's something that you continuously deal with.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was. I could go time. I don't exactly know, and you would know for your condition and for your body how it affects you and all that fun stuff. But for me, I could go, or I used to go months without an attack, and
Yeah.
then out of nowhere drop, right?
Yeah.
And then it would drop always. We always say at the most inconvenient times, but the truth of the matter is there's no convenient time to have a flare up with
Yeah.
a chronic
a
condition
hundred percent.
or some pain or some symptom. There really isn't. But I always say the most convenient time because it's like my second worst attack lasted about a week, and the start of that attack I'll never forget. because I was everything was fine and dandy. Everything was great. My job was going great. I was doing stuff on my everything was just flowing normally. We had this weird presentation thing. I was working in financial reporting for an insurance company. And we were having some presentation with our vice president or something like that, like what we've done to improve, how things are looking, etc. Blah 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 blah. Insert corporate jargon here. And we were all supposed to present some of our jobs, some of what we've done, some of what we improved on, how that's going to help the team, the future state of it, whatever, right? As I'm driving into work, I start feeling it.
Oof.
Like I can feel like the right hand side, like something's there, and I'm just like, please not today. It almost started. The best way I could describe a gallbladder stone attack, at least for me, was like it starts off feeling like a gas, like a trapped gas on your right upper quadrant of your thorax, right? And then I remember very specifically feeling that and saying like, no, it can't be today. Like, come on, like, just really. And I think I've told you before, do not do this. Whoever feels that gallbladder stones or whatever, go to your doctor. But not advisable. I was like massaging, I was hitting, I was like, no, this can't be, this must be like gas or something like that. Nope, it wasn't gas. I was parking, it was onsetting even harder. And I was like, no, I can't, like, this can't be happening now. Like, I have to be at this meeting. And back then I cared a little bit more. Not that I don't care now, but I always tell people, your health is first. So going back to it, I should have just left. I should have just been like, sorry.
So did you end up going into the meeting?
I went into the meeting.
Oh my god!
Biggest mistake of my life. Biggest mistake of my life. Because if there's one thing that I learned that day is that the expression of pain or doing something to get your pain out helps. When you're holding it, that's when you get the weird, nasty stuff like the goosebumps. When you sometimes you gotta scream,
bro. There's sometimes I've been laying down with discomfort, and I was talking about this to Brielle, and I've just been like, like just like humming because I need to let something out. So I completely relate to that 100%.
And my dumbass thought that I usually cope with that way, meditation, other things, blah 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 blah. Anyway, that day I thought I was, I'm like, I'm fine, everything's gonna be fine. I go into the meeting, it keeps getting more and more intense. There's like 2 to 3 people presenting before me, so that's even worse. I wasn't even first.
Damn.
I was like dead smack in the middle of the meeting, so that's even worse. At least in my eyes, it's like I'm not even going first, so I can leave.
Yeah,
I'm like smacking them. I'm not even last, so I can leave, and then they can, whatever. So I stay there. I bite the bullet and I present. And after I present, everything's great. And
how did the presentation go? By the way,
according to my manager, very, 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 very well. She was very into what I stated. Wow. She loved everything I said. She understood everything I said, and all that fun stuff. So it went very, very, very well. And my teammates thought the same. And then I said, right after, I presented and whatnot, I sat back down and I just said, excuse me real quick. And then I left the room and I ran towards the first garbage pail that I can find. I just ran frantically because at that point on that floor or whatever, I think they were moving stuff around. I just ran frantically to look for one, and I just grabbed it and leaned my head in it. And I remember feeling like complete nausea, like I really was about to vomit. Literally, I was going to vomit. And then it didn't really end up happening. So I just went to the bathroom. No, I didn't vomit. I went to the bathroom, slapped my face a couple times, put some cold water on. Chris. Went back in the meeting.
Oh
my manager, we finish our meeting. We go to our floor. My manager asks me, "Are you okay?" And I tell her what happened, and she's like, "Why are you even here?"
Oh my goodness!
So moral of the story: don't do that. Don't do that.
Wait,
like, there's certain lines of pain.
And just to also reel it all in, when did you actually end up going to getting the surgery?
I didn't get a surgery.
Or, I mean, getting the gallstones removed.
I didn't get the gallstones removed either.
What?
Yep.
So
That's another interesting one. So because of the condition because of the chronic condition of gallstones and whatnot and all that fun stuff, there's nothing you could really do aside from, like you said, A, remove stones, or B, watch your diet. That's what they state. So current medicine states that you should watch the amount of fat that you consume, right? That's what they state. Well, it makes sense. If you consume fat, you're going to secrete bile. It's going to go into your gallbladder, and there's a potential of your gallbladder getting clogged.
so you change your diet, and then what? The stones just pass by on their own.
In theory, they're supposed to. In practice, they didn't. So I restricted at that point in time. I literally restricted the crap out of my diet to have no fats, right? And as you know, that's completely different from what I do right now.
Yeah,
Completely
you're
different.
keto now.
Exactly.
Keto, for those
So-
that don't know, it's basically a high fat diet, low carbs.
High fat, low carbs, moderate protein. That's what keto is.
Right.
The restriction for your gallbladder, right, is no fats, high proteins, high carbs, moderate protein. They're really trying to keep you away from the fat.
Got it.
That's what they're trying to do. So I did that for a while, and it seemed to work for a little bit, until one day, I kid you not. Was that not? No. Okay, no. The office meeting thing was a 2-3 day attack. That was an intense attack. That's the second and most intense attack. The third, I'm mixing my stories up. The third was the third I want to talk about is the longest attack. I was on that restricted diet, and I thought everything was fine and dandy. Then I got a very low pain attack, but that lasted like 7 days. And it was
Wow.
like a low stabbing, like dull, achy pain, just continuously. That one was bearable because of my pain tolerance levels, but it was, I don't even have to tell you or explain to you how stupid it was. Just waking up every day and I'm like in pain, and I'm like, really? Come on. And then
Yeah.
having to do everything and then, all that fun stuff. But that specific time, I remember completely giving up the diet. Because I was
yeah.
like, I was like, what is it doing for me? I'm sitting here. You knew me at the time. I was probably eating nothing but like boiled chicken and like half a cup of spinach every meal or something stupid. Like I really was trying to do anything in my power, and I know you can relate to this. Anything in my power to either reduce the chances of an attack or just stop them completely. And so when you do something and it's supposed to work and then it doesn't, yeah, I just tossed the towel. I was like, you know what? Forget about it.
Yeah.
And then at the time, that's when I started looking a little bit more into the science of things.
Okay.
And that's when I stumbled. Believe it or not, the gallbladder was another reason why I stumbled on keto.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So a lot of people don't know that either. They're like, oh, you just magically. No. I didn't magically switch my diet overnight. This was a conscious decision based on many factors.
And then keto
So, yeah.
helped you with the gallbladder.
I haven't had a gallbladder attack since 2019 when I started.
But once you started keto, you passed them. You passed some, at least, right?
The stones don't get past any, like you don't secrete them.
Okay.
Like the kidney stones, they get dissolved.
All right, I'm
and then
confusing
then you put-
gallstones and kidney
and
stones.
kidney stones.
Uh-huh.
But you do dissolve them, and do I believe I've successfully dissolved or passed mine? Yes. I mean,
Okay.
my gallbladder does not bother. I don't get that pain anymore.
Got it.
Thankfully.
That's
Thank God.
that's great.
I would be like, yeah, no, that has to be. I always tell people, I was like, there's very few things that will do it. I've even gotten my teeth drilled without anesthesia. Like that just, obviously not here in the States, that would be a lawsuit. In Ecuador and all that fun stuff, just different country.
Yeah.
But that goes to tell you kind of how much my pain tolerance is or whatever. But the gallstones challenged that. They did. The gallstones challenged that multiple times. They were like, "Oh, you think you're strong?"
I can imagine the strongest pain that I've ever had was when I had an abscess. Remember
Oh
that?
God, yeah. Oh God, no, that
I
has
had
to be another.
I had an abscess right on my butt, by the way. And
Oh, this recovery is
and
brutal for
I
that.
couldn't sit or anything because the pain was insane. And the way that they treat an abscess is brutal,
Hmm.
brutal. They have to open it up,
More.
open it up more than it already is, then clean it inside while you're awake without any type of numbness or anything. Okay, open it up, clean it up in there, and then after they're done cleaning it, the way that it heals up is by you physically putting gauze
All
in the
pads.
abscess, inside the abscess hole, until it heals up from the bottom all the way up. Because if you close it up, that abscess is not healing. So that if you close
They
it up from
come
the
back
top,
up.
it's just gonna open. It's gonna open
Hmm.
right back up, and it's gonna happen again. So that was some of the worst pain that I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh,
This,
I didn't know they did that just straight up no anesthesia.
oh yeah, 100%. And on
Damn,
top,
they had to probably hold you down and stuff because oof,
bro, my dad was
oof.
I think my dad and my mom were there, and I was grabbing into one of their arms, crying,
For dear life, of course, you're literally
crying, bro,
getting cut
while I
open, just
smell my
raw.
skin. My own skin, because
You s-
you smell your
Oh
own
yeah,
skin.
when it
Yeah.
gets open and then they cauterize it and stuff.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, 100%. So
no,
it
that's
was
this.
painful, bro. That was intense. Um, but yeah. Anyway, just kind of, I guess the reason again we wanted to talk about this. I keep repeating myself. I think it's important, for people to know that they're not alone when they're having situations like this, and if you're ever going through something like this, know that it's okay to have sad days. It's okay to have sad days. It's okay to not be in a good mood, or to
Okay to
deal
have
with.
bad days.
Yes, yes.
It's not
It's
okay to take it out on people, but
definitely
it's
not.
okay to have bad
Definitely not.
days.
Yeah, I've never, thankfully, taken it out on anybody. But yeah, it doesn't give you an excuse to be disgusting to other people. But yeah, you're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to feel whatever you're feeling, because it's difficult. But it's also important to try your best to, as hard as it might be sometimes, to just try to have a better day the next day. And that's how I kind of like deal with it. Again, sometimes it's difficult. I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I've had several days where I'm having a sad day because of what I'm going through. But it's always important to kind of just, first of all, take care of yourself, and try to fix the situation if possible. If it's fixable, not be stubborn. Because if I were to be stubborn and continue to be eating improperly and not following my diet and not taking the pills that I need to take, I would have acid reflux all the time, and I potentially get throat cancer. So yeah, it's difficult to be positive, but it's important to be positive at times whenever you can be, because it helps you. It helps with your mental health, and whatever. And if you have ever have a you feel like you need to keep things to yourself, don't speak to someone. Let them know what you're going through, because for me, that's what I felt a lot. I don't know if you ever felt this, Chris, but for me it was like more
Mm.
like, I don't want to mention what I'm going through, because I feel like I'm being a burden at this point, just mentioning the same thing over and over and over again. So sometimes I'll just like keep it into myself, but those ones that I kept to myself were the most difficult. The most difficult. But when I'm able to like release it out and like express what I'm going through, it makes me feel a little bit better. I'm not feeling, obviously I'm still going through what I'm going through, but it helps my mind at least a little bit.
Yeah. Also, you're mentioning it to someone. You're physically telling someone, "Hey, this is going on," even though they don't necessarily know how you feel. You can't necessarily put it in words sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the condition. But in your case, in my case, with what we just spoke about, it's very difficult to put in words.
Yeah.
Very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But to your point, expressing yourself maybe to that one person that you think will sit down and will be respectful enough to listen definitely helps, because at that point in time there's someone that automatically, I've had a couple of people like this in the office. They knew. So when they saw me, and there'll be times where they literally could tell. The people that knew could literally tell as soon as I walked in, as soon as I sat down, how you doing, Chris? I'm good, and this and that. You're not feeling good today, are you? I was like, oh, how can you tell? Oh, I could tell. Like, your bag's under your eyes. You're not walking the same way. Your energy levels are down.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
for
oh,
me,
okay.
for me, it's very difficult to hide because of how the person that I am and like goofy guy that I like to be, and whenever that goofy person is not there, immediately people know.
They were like, who's
it's
that?
instant. It's like, who the heck is this guy?
Who's that? What is he doing here?
Yeah, yeah,
But
but
then to
yeah,
your point, it's also extremely important. And I was saying earlier how it should be chronic conditions and overall health, because uh, going back to what you were stating, is like it's important not to be stubborn. You know, I can be extremely stubborn. I'll be the first to admit. In terms of getting medical care, and sometimes the appropriate medical care. Whether it's time, in my case, I would say the biggest hindrance would be me thinking there isn't enough time. You know, a lot of people do that. I'm like my father. My father will sometimes do that. That's bad. Do not follow that example. Your priority should be your health. Your health, and the loved ones around you.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. With that being said, and what I mean by priority, I mean priority. I don't mean tomorrow. I mean priority.
yeah,
Then the reason why I include myself and I say that, or put myself in that category, is because I had kidney stones not too long ago, probably a year and some change ago, and I think I remember telling you this. I knew months before.
yeah.
I knew months before because I knew it. I was like, there's symptoms showing. I feel something. Things are off. I knew it. Well, the moment I knew is the moment I should have gone.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things were happening. You know, there was a trip scheduled. I didn't want to cancel the trip, blah, blah, blah. Then I had another trip, and then I was with someone at the time, and then we went on to Vegas and whatever. Long story short, fast forward, I didn't end up at the doctor's till February, but I didn't end up in the doctor's until I had worse symptoms. It wasn't until Brian, my roommate, my best friend, it wasn't until I told him, he yelled at me. He told me, he's like, when stuff like this happens, stop doing that. Like, stop, like, you know, just stay in your room and this and that. Because there was one day where I stood in my room, I didn't even come out. He knew something was wrong. But anyway, fast forward the day where I finally went to the doctor. I went because he literally, I was like, I'm peeing blood again, and he's like, I want to see. He didn't even say like, no. He's like, I want to see. So I showed him, bro. Immediately, he was like, he's like, you're calling my doctor today.
Yeah.
Like, today.
Yeah, you pee blood. I pee
it's like,
blood. I'm
come on,
fucking going to
man.
the emergency room that second, bro.
So long story short, honestly, the overall, I think it's important because I think there's a couple people, or I think a couple people can probably feel that same, I guess you could say, sentiment is the doctors should not be secondary. Your health should not be secondary.
Yeah.
Don't put your health off. It will come back to bite you.
100%.
In whatever way or form. In this instance, it didn't come back to really bite me, but if I would have potentially gotten my procedure done earlier, I got my stone blasted. I could have potentially saved myself maybe time, pain, a little bit of pain,
Yeah.
maybe even some money, because, you know, I had issues, as you know, with some insurances and all that BS. But anyway, things could have been taken care of sooner. Things might have not evolved and whatever. Things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
But that's not an excuse to have not gone to the doctor in November. Picture November, November, and then by February is at the doctor. That's too many months.
Yeah, that's a lot.
December, January, February. That's 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months with a 1 centimeter kidney stone in my right hand side.
That's wild, bro. I'm the total opposite. I'm like, as soon as I feel something, I'm going to the doctor.
Oh, I wish.
I hate, because I don't know, bro. I just, ever since I was diagnosed with this condition,
Mhm.
this disorder, bro, I get scared too easily. I'm like, bro, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to my GI. I'm going to the emergency room if I had to. I'm like, whatever I need to do to feel better.
The funny
Cause,
part is that is I you know me too. I go to the doctor very frequently.
mm-hmm,
Very, very frequently. That was just a small span of time where I didn't go, and it, none of the indicators that would say something about having a kidney stone were popping.
mm,
So it's not like we could have known in the first place.
yeah,
But still, it's like that. I should have been at the doctor's in November, not
mm-hmm,
February.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
so. Yeah, I don't know. I got to be more like you, where it's like, all right, something's wrong. So it's like I am kind of like you, but I'm more preemptive. It's more like I go every 3 months just because I'm a hypochondriac. It's like, all right, I want to figure out if something's wrong.
yeah. But
But the
we're all
truth of the
different.
matter
And
is,
then
yeah,
you do that thing with the doctor. You go to your doctor or like every 3 months or something. I don't go to my
every
regular
time.
doctor every 3 months. I go to
See,
my
I go.
doctor for when I have to do my physical, and
Hmm.
once a year, and if I feel bad. Those are the only times that I go to my doctor. So
Meanwhile, my doctor is yeah. Well, speaking of which, I'm a little late for our appointment every 3 months. But meanwhile, she literally expects me every 3 months. My doctor.
yeah.
Every single time I come in, she's like, she's like, you're one of the few. And I'm the few of what? She's like, you're here like clockwork. She's like, you're one of my best patients. And I'm like,
Mm,
I'm like, that's great. Meanwhile, that goes to show you, you could have everything fine on your physicals. Because what I get done every 3 months is physicals or whatever. And for prep, for anyone that takes prep or whatever, it's
yeah.
one of the pill, anti-HIV, whatever. Don't take prep anymore, but still like to, keep up every 3 months. So it's a full panel. We're talking everything you could possibly think of in terms of liver and kidney function, cholesterol levels, all the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And even then, that goes to show you, even then, something still could be messed up with you.
Yeah.
And just like there's some people that never go to the doctor, right? And
Mm-hmm.
nothing ever happens to them.
That's true.
Just goes to show you, it's better for you to keep on top of your health. That's why I was mentioning earlier, chronic conditions / health. I'm
Mm-hmm.
of the school of thought, even though it goes completely against what I just said earlier about, me not going to the doctors at the first sign. But I'm all about knowing your markers, knowing where you stand health wise,
Mm-hmm.
how you are health wise. Are things abnormal? What do I need to do to improve my health? What levels are abnormal? Is this genetic?
Yeah.
All that is extremely important. And I don't think enough people place enough importance on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you can be as healthy as a horse and still spawn gallstones and kidney stones. So.
100%. That's the worst part too, when you're doing everything proper but still are affected by things. It's so frustrating because it happens to me. I'm going through that right now. I had an episode, a really bad episode, like about almost a week ago. No, yeah, and then it got even worse. And then on Friday, I ended up going to the hospital. And ended up being that I am actually super backed up. My bowel movements have not been regular, um, and it has to do with the disorder as well, because it's all connected. It's all connected. So yeah, they've been treating me, giving me some laxatives and things like that. Sorry to talk about it, but and I've had some release and I'm feeling a lot better. So I'm like, oh Lord, thank you. I'm like,
Thank God.
yes, yeah,
There's nothing better than that, like small little, almost like relief, even if it's not 100%.
yeah,
I remember very vividly, like when I would have the gallstones or the gallbladder attacks or whatever. There would be so many things. There's so many things online. I don't even have to tell you. I'm pretty sure you've Googled everything in the fucking planet to
yeah, I
try
have no
to
idea.
figure out. You're like,
You have no
oh,
idea. My wife bought a book.
cockroach legs, yummy. Like,
The best thing that could have happened was Brielle, my wife, buying this book The book is literally a GI doctor that has dealt with so much of my own disorder that I have, that he decided to create a book to help people with what to eat, what exercises to do, what to drink, the lifestyle that you should have, all this stuff, which is amazing. It's the only thing, truthfully, that has helped after I found out that I had the disorder.
And again, that only comes from the compilation of information that he's been able to attain.
Yeah, and the
You know,
interest.
it's like and interest, because
yeah.
I guarantee you, if he wasn't a GI doctor, if he didn't care, or if he was a GI doctor and he was just a bad GI doctor, he would have never researched, he would have never looked,
No.
he would have never nothing. And that's another issue with chronic conditions is, as I told you before, I know you've Googled everything on the planet, because when I had my gallstones, I Googled, what didn't I Google? There was one thing in particular, though, apple cider vinegar and water, that said, oh, yeah, you know, it could potentially help a little tiny bit in this and that. There's nothing better. I'm going back to my previous statement when I interrupted you. Nothing better than something that literally alleviates it, even if it's just like 10%. I'm telling you, when you have a chronic condition, that 10% is like, oh, okay, you've turned on the furnace just a little tiny bit, just a little bit. And it feels like, oh, okay, this helps. I remember drinking apple cider vinegar for the first time with water and saying, what is this crap gonna do? Drink it, 10 minutes later, it actually started feeling a little better.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, okay, there's some method to this old wives' tales medicine madness.
No,
But yeah.
I completely agree. I completely agree. Looking for that relief is a never-ending thing for me.
Yeah, it's a treasure hunt. It's like
Yeah.
it's a never-ending treasure hunt, because it's like you sometimes it's debilitating and it's defeating, because it almost feels like sometimes you almost wish like this one thing or whatever would do it, and you're like, yes, and then you're like,
Yeah, the worst thing is like going through like a list of things, and you're like, okay, this looks like it potentially could help me, and you're like, damn, that didn't help me. You move on to the next thing, and you're like, okay, this potentially can help me, and you
Yep.
go down, and you're all of a sudden running out of a list, and nothing has helped you. That is desperating, bro. Desperating.
I know.
It's-
My list, obviously, one of the times, because you start, when you have a chronic condition, you create multiple lists through time. I know you can relate to this, because you said, depending on how bad you've had an attack, is like that directly influences how desperate you are to either look for something or create a whole list of crap to try, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember at the very bottom of my list were, as you know, I don't like chemicals that much, pills and stuff like that. At the very bottom were, you know, Tylenols and ibuprofens and stuff like that. You know, doctor always said, well, if it's that bad, that's the one thing I hate about here too. It's like, if it's that bad, just take ibuprofen. If it's that bad after ibuprofen, go to the hospital.
Yeah.
In other countries, they just take it out. Anyway, at the very bottom of my list was Advil, Tylenol. And then right after that were prescription pain medications. I took it once, admittedly. I didn't like taking it, but there was one time where I was like, yo, there has to be something that can help me.
Yeah.
That's how I knew that gallstones were like not a joke to begin with, is when I took, I believe it was an Oxy my friend gave me. He gave me an Oxy and it didn't help.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, bro, it was that bad. It was that
I
bad.
can imagine.
That's how I knew. I was like that. I remember that moment of defeat, because I remember I took the Oxy and I was like, I still feel the pain and it's still there and it's still very persistent and they just won't shake off.
Wow.
And I remember telling myself, I was like, yeah, you've exhausted your list from like 1 to 100, and the last thing on that list was something you hate, and it still didn't work. And I'm like, great.
Yeah.
This is phenomenal. This is exactly what I wanted.
It's difficult. It's difficult, but you know, it's like like I said, difficult but important to talk about.
I
'Cause
agree, 110%.
Other people can relate to it, and you could sometimes, you know, figure out how to handle sometimes, and I mean things. And what's helped me too also is joining like Facebook groups with people that have the same disorder. Because you get to,
Interesting.
bro, there's
Really?
millions. Oh yeah,
Yeah, for
millions
me it
of
was just
people.
Reddit boards. I was just like,
Um,
someone say something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I have like two Facebook groups that I have. It's one is for like GERD, acid reflux, and the other one
Hmm.
is for this motility disorder. And both of them, you start seeing, and it's like, oh shoot, this guy is going through the same thing that I'm going to. It's like, what did he do to fix that problem, and then what did this person do to fix this problem? And then you could, if you don't see anything that can relate to you, you can ask questions and say, hey, I'm going through this, I'm going through that, and people will jump in and say, hey, this is what helped me. So I found that very helpful.
That's the beauty. I think always talk about this. I sound like a damn broken record, but that's the beauty of the internet. That's the beauty of technology. I truly have an admiration from it because it's enabled us literally to do
Mm-hmm.
things like this, for example, have a
Mm-hmm.
podcast remotely while the weather is supposed to be bad.
Yeah.
The last time I looked, it's not even snowing.
Yeah, I know. I
But
know. I know some people that are hoping that that weather gets bad so you can don't have work tomorrow.
I mean, I know I would hope that too, but unfortunately, I work remote, so it's like,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, yeah.
But what was I saying? I forgot.
We were talking about the, I'm bad with this too. We were just
No,
talking. Oh, I mentioned the groups, and you were saying how good it is to
oh
have
yeah.
those groups
I got
and
it. Yeah, the technology, and then my brain just went
technology.
with
Yep.
freaking
Mm-hmm.
snow. Um, Technology is wonderful. It's enabled us to do this, but it's also enabled that kind of like crowdsourcing knowledge, and
Mm-hmm.
that to me is probably the most powerful and collaborative tool that we have is the internet.
Yeah.
And the fact that it could do something like that you can get in touch with thousands of people across the globe that
Mm-hmm.
are literally potentially feeling the same exact thing that you are,
Yeah.
and that you guys are just there to swap ideas, and that to me is incredible, man. That to me is
I
incredible.
completely agree.
I would have never. There's a very interesting video that my little brother showed us, and it was talking about how in the past, because we couldn't share knowledge as quickly across the globe and across people as we can today, people became specialists at what they did. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what they focused on,
Mm-hmm.
and but that era is now long gone.
Yeah.
And I agree with the video sentiment. That era is long gone because the information that we have online is almost infinite.
Yeah.
You can dive down any rabbit hole you really want to and learn just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you could become a doctor overnight, but I'm saying there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you know how to navigate through information and push things through the side and obviously place them in buckets of likelihood and all that fun stuff, the world is at your disposal with the internet.
Yeah.
And that to me is incredible. It's
I
sad that
agree.
everyone has to kind of connect with that,
Yeah.
but you know, the fact that it can actually happen, it must be relieving.
100%.
Must be
Yeah.
it must at least present some sort of comfort.
And
Where
and
it's
it,
like,
it is comforting because although you might have, again, the importance of talking and speaking out, you might have somebody, that you are expressing what you're going through, but also might be difficult to relate to because they don't know. They might understand what you're going through, like in terms of like you're explaining it to them, but they have no idea how you feel.
Exactly.
They
It's
have
like when
no
you
idea.
describe it, yeah, when you describe to me what you feel,
Mm-hmm.
I
You could
wish
picture it, right? You could
I
picture
can
it,
picture,
or
it, but I don't know how
Right.
that feels like.
the same thing with your gallbladder.
Yeah.
I will never know what that pain is unless I went through it. So, yeah, it's cool. I think the Facebook group is super cool to like be able to have people that can have the exact same problem that you have, and you could talk to them and possibly either find a solution or just at least have some type of relatability with them. So with that, Chris, what do you think? To kind of just closing off here.
An hour already?
What?
Oh.
Yes, about to be. It's 54 minutes.
Oh crap! I thought we were 30 minutes. I don't know where my timing went.
The podcast always goes super fast. Always
I know, they
goes
always
super
do.
fast.
They always do.
What would be, I guess, an advice that you have for people that may be going through like a chronic condition or tough times or whatever it might be?
Number one is it just don't like. It's hard to hear these words because it's very difficult. But don't give up. because there's plenty of people that have either gone through your condition. If your condition is unique and it's chronic, obviously these words might not even resonate, but still, don't give up, because there's 20 billion other things that are fighting for your attention and fighting for you to give up. The last thing you need to do is to not be your best cheerleader. I know it's difficult. It can be difficult, regardless of the condition. If it presents discomfort, it just doesn't allow you to function normally. So I would honestly, number one piece of advice is don't give up hope per se, and stay on top of your health, because it's easy to say, all right, whatever, and kind of just toss your arms up and then just give it all up sometimes. There are times where that can happen. And don't let it get that far, though. Always stay on top of your health. And even if you're not feeling okay, at least feel some sort of consolation or solace that you're doing the best that you can do for yourself. So, I would say that number one piece of advice is do the best by you.
I completely agree. I completely agree. So, my advice would be, I think that's too important. Don't give up. Know that there are people out there that can relate to what you're going through. Speak up, talk to someone about what's going on, and you don't have to go through this by yourself. And if you don't have anybody to talk to, just like the last podcast that we have where Yamish was talking about, you could journal, write things down, express what you're going through. Just let it out in some way, in some form, because letting things out, man, it's a way of, I don't know, just, I guess, feeling better. I don't know how better way to describe it, but
relieving mental
something.
Stress.
Yeah, 100%. So with that, again, like always, Chris, thank you, by the way, for bringing this topic up. I think it's super great. Yeah, no, it was great. I was like, literally right before we started the podcast, I was like, what are we going to talk about? And he was like immediately with it. And I was like, yeah, yeah. I was like, I guess we'll talk about it. So thank you, Chris, like always, like spending some time with me, talking, helping me with my mental health.
It's helping me, please. I've had.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm glad that we can help each other, and I hope that we can help anybody out there. Again, like we always say, reach out to us. Now we have this form of doing the podcast as well. You don't necessarily have to come in. We could do it via Discord, or whatever it might be. And I guess we'll see you guys on the next one. See ya.
Bye, everybody. Where's Brianna?
She's over there.
That's sad. 3, 2, 1. Is it snowing yet?